Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hi, this is Jan. Welcome to another episode on my channel, Save Money and More with Jan channel. How you doing today? Want to jump right into it? I am totally convinced. That we as a nation, as people, as everything, I think we overdo it. I think we overdo it with everything. Yeah. What? What do you mean by that, Jan? I believe we overdo it. We act out of excessiveness in so many ways, and this is much to our detriment. Recently, a kind commenter mentioned how they enjoy Jan's rule of half, my rule of half, whenever possible. If I could do something in a recipe, for example, and use half in a box cake recipe, or let's say a half a pound of meat for a recipe instead of a whole pound of meat for a recipe. This is what I mean by Jan's rule of half. But it does come into play that, in my honest opinion, we overdo everything. Have you ever taken a look at some of the sizes of the drinks that are sold out there? I'm talking about soft drinks. Like what? What? And then people buy for the little kids these drinks. Like, oh my gosh, does a child need a 20-ounce guzzler? Honestly, seriously, no, 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 no. I'm just saying, listen, that's just my opinion. I don't know how you feel about it, but I believe that we need to take a breath and cut back, because what it adds up into is into waste. This is wasteful habits, wasteful spending. We are creatures of habit. And because we're so used to it, if you ever look back, for example, in the 1960s, 50s, 60s, and even maybe the early 70s, a cup of coffee was a fraction of the size that we have today. Some of the sizes of the cups of coffee today are just absolutely ridiculous. Because I was looking at some, I like to look, pictures at, fine china, things of that nature, delicate cups from back in the day. They were absolutely tiny. I mean, you could even watch, for example, on a classic TV show. Oh my word. And you will see just how small a cup of coffee was. Another example, a muffin. Back in the good old days, a muffin, if you wanted a corn muffin, compared to the ginormous corn muffins of today, you wouldn't even recognize it. They were like a fraction of the size, literally the size of some of the muffins that are sold today outside on the street or in the grocery stores. Literally, I could literally cut it in four. I could literally cut those in four. So I do believe that at times, or many times, that we overdo things. Maybe we overeat out of habit. I don't know. I don't know. It could be. Do we overspend out of habit? The answer is absolutely yes. And I have known some people, for example, they like to spend just because, well, I have some money, so now it's time to spend. Would you really have to spend that money? Well, but it's time to spend. I mean, like no real purpose or direction. I had a very, very close friend that did that, and she really had a lot of issues with overspending. For example, on Tuesdays was her day. Okay, let's go shopping. Oh, yeah, what are we going to look for? Well, and the person, my friend, used to have maybe 10 of those items, and they were perfectly okay. And she would say, well, it's Tuesday, so I have to go shopping. But what are we shopping for? And then she would say, and in my mind's eye, of course, I would never say anything to someone. That's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. I mean, they're free to do whatever they want to do. But in my mind's eye, I was like, what? How do you like you're just shopping to go shopping. So mindless shopping, mindless spending. But when the person says they're having difficulties paying their bills, then it raises a question in my mind. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe you should analyze the things that you do. So take a breath. Okay, you see where I'm going with that. But I do think that we are in a situation and out of terrible habits that we overdo things in so many ways. For example, I was looking at a cupcake, from the grocery store. It looked like it had 10 pounds of frosting on it. It was actually kind of almost borderline gross because there was so much sugar thrown on top of that cupcake. It just looked horrible for me. I don't really care for tons of sweet. I like a little bit of something sweet, but I don't need to have like tons and tons and tons. I could have frosted 6 cupcakes with the amount of frosting that I saw on that one cupcake. I am not even exaggerating. So, what can we do about it? Well, we could be more aware of it. If something seems like too much, well, maybe we could cut back. Okay. That's up to us, taking it one step at a time. A person noticed that they were using way, way too much excessive laundry detergent. And they're like, thinking that the clothes are going to come out cleaner. Wrong. It's the agitation that helps the dirt get released. You could use a fraction of the amount of that detergent. So take a minute, like if you're doing something, say, wait a minute, can I cut back on this? Whatever this may be. I'm not going to be, in the back of your mind saying this all day, but I like to be a little bit more mindful of certain things because I do believe that we are in a situation where we are extremely excessive. And you want to know where it started off with? It started off in simple forms. For example, let's say about 50 years ago, those shampoo bottles that would say, lather, rinse, repeat. There's no reason to lather, rinse, repeat 2 times. The only reason is so that the company wants you to use up the product very, very fast. Instead of you could just get away with it, just lather, rinse, and no repeating. Rinse very well. Don't need to use it twice. You see where I'm going with this. So we got into habits. And then, of course, I don't know if it was in the 70s or the 80s, probably the 1980s, where it started to begin those huge, huge drinks, the soft drinks at the fast food places, and then the mugs to follow, the coffee mugs. I mean, honestly, even the one that I'm used to using was gifted to me a long time ago. But honestly, I I don't know, it looks like maybe about anywhere between 12 to 16 ounces. It's, to me, really, really big. When I compare it to those size of cups of coffee mugs back in the day, I mean, those were fractional. They were absolutely fractional. Where did we go wrong that we're so used to huge, huge sandwiches, huge, 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 huge portion sizes? And it also goes for saying, I think that we eat too much literally out of habit because we see it advertised that way. We see things sold to us that way. I mean, honestly, back in the day, probably I would have eaten, let's say, a fraction of that sandwich, maybe for lunch, and maybe hang on to, for example, the other half for either the next day or even just have it at dinner time. This is the way we spend money way too much. We don't realize we're doing it. We are just so used to doing it. Anyway, you see where I'm going with this. All right, everybody, let's stay more mindful of portion control, of excessive use of things that we don't have to. We don't have to have big, big, big. Think about something for a second. A huge cup of coffee mug requires you to use what? More coffee. More coffee, more milk. And if you take milk and sugar, you see how that works. It's like sort of like a chain of command in a weird, weird way. All right, everybody, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate everybody's time. Don't forget to come back tomorrow. And also for my No Frills video, which comes out at midnight, every single midnight, Monday through Friday. They are 5 minutes or less, the No Frills videos. And of course, as you've been here right now for my longer form content, 2 o'clock Eastern, have an amazing, fantastic day. Take good care of yourself and your amazing family. Have a wonderful day.